I want to continue on this issue, and Representative Bynum, you mentioned the issue of insurance. That is a critical need when it comes to protecting our properties from fire. And at a time when insurance companies are either dropping people like flies or they're increasing their premiums to the point where they can no longer afford it, the federal government and FEMA has a program to protect people against flooding across this country. There is no such program to protect people against wildfires. Do you believe the federal government should be involved in some way in making it easier for people to get the fire insurance coverage to protect them against wildfires that could very well be caused by, as many people would say, climate change?
Absolutely. I mean, I think it's important for us to remember how devastating a loss can be when you experience a wildfire or a hurricane or a tornado. That is one of the things, like experiencing that is trauma. It's not something that you should take lightly. I mean, I had a very close family member just recently stuck in Hurricane Helene for 8 days without water or power. I think it's also important for government to make sure that we're building houses in places where we're not increasing risk and we're not being unreasonable about the risk that people are taking by living there. And so it is with caution that we build in certain places, knowing that we need to build more. So I would be very supportive of making sure that, you know, the West Coast gets taken care of just like the East Coast and the southern area of the country.
Congresswoman DeRemer, do you support Congress funding an insurance program, much like they fund through FEMA, a flood program?
Well, the conversation's worth it because here in the West, that's what we do is burn down. We're not having the flooding like we saw in Florida. We're not having the hurricanes and the tornadoes, but we do have these massive wildfires. And we're seeing it in California, we're seeing it in Washington, and our insurance companies are dropping many of the homeowners insurance or the businesses, and they don't know who to turn to. And I think there's a couple of things we can address. One, we have to address the mitigation of why we're in the situation that we're in and how we're managing our forests. They really are a life cycle, and we have to make sure that we're involved in that. And then the urgency of getting those dollars out the door right afterward, and we're seeing that now in Florida and throughout the South Coast about is FEMA releasing the dollars that has been authorized by the Congress, $20 billion, and they're not getting all the dollars they need, and people are really hurting with their water shortage and food and where they're going to go live. And then of course rebuilding afterward. How are we going to mitigate and manage and coordinate with these insurance companies and or the private sector to say where are we heading back to? So there's a lot to talk about in this, but I think it's certainly worth taking a look at that.